Good morning, everyone. Maranatha, Christ is coming. All right, it's good to be with you, everyone, this morning. Today, I want to talk a little bit about eating meat. So, a recent study was recently done that I was looking at, and it asked an interesting question, and it generated some interesting results. 2/3 of men who were polled, a bunch of men were asked this question. 2/3 of them said that they would choose dying 10 years earlier rather than permanently giving up meat. Am I crazy? 2/3 of men asked said they would rather live 10 years less than giving up meat permanently. So, while this was just a poll, it was really interesting because I saw another study, a scientific study, of Seventh-day Adventists. And these Adventists, they're Seventh-day Adventists who did not eat meat, and it showed they live on average 10 years longer than most people. So it's not an irrelevant question. It seems like this question is actually rooted in something that could be true, that giving up meat can actually extend your life. And if you know that giving up meat can actually extend your life, maybe 10 years, maybe more, and if you're choosing to not do that, if you're choosing the food on your plate over life, then what is that? An idol, right? That's an idol in your life, something that you're not willing to give up, that maybe you should. But a lot of people eat meat, right? Most people in the United States are meat eaters. And so some of it can be explained, right? The reason why most people eat meat, a lot of it can be explained by simple ignorance. What I just told you, most people aren't aware of that, right? A lot of people think that meat is extremely nutritious. In fact, it's required. A lot of people do think that. And a lot of people don't think that it's bad for you, and a lot of people believe that a plant-based diet is actually bad for you, right? A lot of people make that argument, oh, there's not enough nutrition, you're not going to get enough protein, you're not going to get in B12 or whatever. You know, people always say different things, even though meat eaters are usually deficient in B12, anyone who's looked at that. But some of it can also be explained by social stigma, and because as you all know, there's probably a lot of baggage still associated with the word vegan, right? A lot of people don't want to be considered vegans. There's like a political climate change, save the whales type of mentality that people have when they look at a vegan, right? When they think of a vegan, they usually think of a political person who's very skinny and malnourished, right? That's kind of the idea, the image that comes to a lot of people's mind when they think of a vegan, and who wants to be that, right? So there's a social stigma with being a vegan. A lot of people simply don't know, but a lot of people have become very aware of health disadvantages that eating meat does have. In fact, a study on food addiction was done, and many different foods were compared to commonly abused drugs, highly addictive drugs, and they looked at the similarities. Red meat, as well as processed foods high in sugar and fat, were among the foods that showed the greatest similarity to addictive drugs. People were addicted to red meat, addicted. This study showed that among people who were addicted to food, red meat was among the most popular choices among people who are addicted to food. Red meat is the most common, maybe the second most of all them all, common food that people get addicted to, that they can't let go of. And so not only is it bad for you, but it's addictive. There's an addictive quality to these things. And eating meat does not necessarily make you stronger. It doesn't make you more masculine. It doesn't make you healthier compared to a person eating a plant-based diet. Meat has been directly associated with all sorts of diseases, like heart disease, cancer, gut issues, where people on plant-based diets have been demonstrated to be the complete opposite. A plant-based diet is the most studied diet in the world for fighting chronic illness, preserving life, and adding to your longevity. There's no other diet in the world that had more research and more brain power put into it that's revealed its power to overcome chronic illness and extend your life. No other diet in the world. It's about a whole food, plant-based diet like we're counseled to eat as Seventh-day Adventists. And so whenever that survey asked if people would be willing to trade 10 years of their life for their ability to keep eating meat, it was indicative of the choice that people are making every single day. And so I would counsel you to choose life over what you're putting on your plate. And one final thing I would keep in mind, because we know we have dietary laws. There's no pork, there's no shellfish, there's no certain types of foods. But another thing I would keep in mind is that most of us who are still eating meat, we're not eating fresh caught game. We're not eating from local farms. Most of us are getting our meat from factory farms. And if we apply the same principles that God used when he was giving us the original dietary laws for clean and unclean animals, if God were to look at and cast judgment on the animals that were coming out of factory farms, do you think God would judge that as clean or unclean? What do you think that God would say in regards to factory farmed animals that are born, lived, and die all in darkness? Oftentimes these animals have diseases when they're slaughtered. They have to shave tumors sometimes off of the meat before they send them off to the supermarket. They have to spray color on them to make them look vital and healthy and fresh. So if God looked at swine and shellfish and all these other things and deemed them unclean, I have a feeling that he would say a very similar thing about a lot of the factory farmed meat that we're eating today. So I would just encourage you all. I know there's probably a lot of people who are still eating meat, and I'm not going to condemn you for doing that. But small steps every day to eat less and less and to engage more with whole plant-based foods, because you're going to have a longer life and you're going to have a deeper connection with the Lord. And it's a big part of our religion, is how we worship the Lord. Everything that we do, including what we eat and drink, should all be to the glory of God. And I'll leave you with that. I pray that you all may be in perfect health.